Welcome to tabletmaster.com. We're going to be giving you a beginner's guide to the iPad and going through some of the more most used features and basically giving you an introduction to the iPad as a whole if you've just got yourself one and you're really not sure how to use it. The first thing I thought I'd do is explain the buttons on the iPad. So assuming you've turned it on and you're greeted with the first screen. My screen, as you can see here, I'm streaming it to my computer, but my screen might look a bit different to yours depending what apps you've got installed and so on. So don't worry about that now. It's more the buttons on the actual iPad. So because I'm streaming it to the computer, I won't be able to you won't see the iPad move, obviously, because it's just a screen image. You can see whatever I do on the screen. You see here if I swipe across. But what you'll see is, if you could just bear with me and hold your iPad as you see it on the screen, and you want to hold it with this button where my mouse cursor is, this home button, you want to hold it with it exactly like it is on the screen, with it sort of downwards, and you're holding the iPad in a vertical position, because you can have it like that. I mean, you won't be able to see on the screen because that will change. You can change the way the screen is, whether horizontal or vertical, by tilting the iPad. But just hold it like this. You've got the camera at the top here and you've got the home button at the bottom. Now if we're starting like that and you're holding it with two hands, what you'll have here, I'll just show you with the mouse cursor. If you look about here at the top of your iPad, you will have a headphone socket, and you will have some headphones that were included with your iPad. That's where you plug them in. If you plug them in, you're obviously able to listen to music, watch films, anything that requires sound. If you need to be a bit quiet, if you're on a journey, that's where you plug the headphones in. So moving along, this here is the camera. If you're speaking to someone, and we will explore more features later in the course, but one of the apps, they're all called apps, every single program that you use, lots of different apps. You've got apps for games, apps for productivity, millions of different apps, but one of the main ones that is installed on the iPad when you get it straight out of the box is this one, FaceTime, and that will enable you to speak to someone else with an iPhone or an iPad and actually see them on the screen. So that's the camera that you'd look into. Okay, so moving across, if you look at the top again, now you'll see here, I'll show you on the mouse cursor, about here where my mouse cursor is, if you look at the top, you will see a button, a sleep button. Now don't push that, because it just basically, if you leave your iPad, you've finished with it and you don't want to use it, but you don't want to turn it off, you might be going back to it, and you don't want I'll just get this back, because mine actually did, all that was, mine actually went to sleep then, because I was talking and I was just leaving it, so it went to sleep. So you got a preview of what that looks like. When you saw the screen go blank, then that's what that button will do here. It just puts your iPad to sleep to save the screen, because if you have this image and it's just on the screen, it could burn into the screen. I don't think it will, but it just protects the screen and prolongs the life. Okay, so moving on. If you go where my mouse cursor is, if you look about here on the iPad, you'll see a little button that slides down, and I'm going to do it. If I slide it down, you can see here a little symbol that's come up like a padlock, and if I slide it back up, a little arrow's gone round. Now what that does is, it's got two functions. You can either use that little switch to mute the iPad if you want it to be a mute switch, or you can use it to lock basically, remember when I mentioned about tilting the iPad? If I tilt it this way, you won't see on the screen, but if I tilt the iPad anti-clockwise and put it horizontal, you can see it change on the screen. You see, and if I have it back vertical, it will change. And it's basically down to your preference when you're browsing the web or doing anything, what you want your screen to be. Now, if you want it locked for any reason, you just flick this switch down, and that's actually unlocked it. Sorry, it's locked it. That's locked it now. And then if I push it up, you can see that arrow. So the arrow is unlocked. The arrow down with the padlock is locked. Now, just while we're on the subject of that button, you might think, well, mine's not doing that. Mine's actually muting it. Okay. How you actually change that is you go down to here, and you see the settings, looks like gear cogs. If you push that with your finger, you go into the settings. There's many settings for the iPad, but all we're interested in is if you tap on general, mine's already selected here, and you go down to here where it says use side switch to lock rotation or mute. Okay, so if I change that, if I tap mute, okay, so I've tapped mute, and we want to get back to the page or back to the screen we were just on. So you tap the home button here, and it goes back. Again, where my mouse cursor is, that's the home button. As it's a lot to take in all at once for beginners, but basically if you're on an app, you're on the web, you're on any program, and you want to get back to this main screen, you just push that once in most cases. Okay, so we've done that in the settings, and now if I move this button up here, if I move it up and down, you can see here it's either allowing the volume on, or if I push it down, it's muting it totally. Okay, so I leave the volume on. Directly underneath that button, you've got two buttons, and that's just the volume. If you push the higher one, the one at the top, you increase the volume of your iPad, and if you tap the bottom one, you can decrease the volume. Okay, so that's, remember we were saying about the headphone socket here, that's how you increase and decrease the volume. Now another little trick, if you've got the volume up and you want to mute it very quickly, just hold your finger on the down button, and you can see it just mutes it instantly. Okay, and then that's pretty much all the buttons. So that's the basic functions. To go through them again: headphone socket, sleep button at the top right, the little slider button which can be used for muting your iPad or change it or locking the screen to a certain preference, whether you want it to be vertical or horizontal, and the volume control. And the other main button that you need to know, the one that you'll be using a lot, is this button, the home button. That's got many functions that we'll be exploring, but for now all you need to know is when you open up Safari, which you use to browse the web, or whether you use email, videos, anything, whenever you're using pretty much any app and you want to get back to select another app or the main screen, which is here, you just tap that once. So that's an introduction to the iPad. I hope you found it helpful if you've just got the iPad out of the box. If you are looking for tuition and video lessons for the iPad, I have a far more in-depth course that will guide you through everything step by step at tabletmastered.com. You'll find a link underneath below this video, and you'll be able to get step-by-step iPad video lessons that will guide you through very basic stuff like what we've just covered, all the way to advanced stuff like turning your iPad into a sat-nav, or using iCloud, which is when you can link the iPad to your computer for like photos and media files and music, and have it update. And there's many things that you can do with the iCloud, so you can sync your iPad with your computer. If you've got an Apple TV, we'll be moving into that. All very advanced stuff, the App Store, exactly how to use that, the best apps to download for fun, for music, for games, for productivity. Far too much I can cover in one YouTube video, but do visit us, tabletmastered.com. You'll find a link below. I'd love to have you with us. And stay tuned to subscribe to the YouTube channel anyway, because I'm going to be doing some more videos for beginners that will tell you the basic functions of the iPad so you can get up and running. Think of it more like a quick start, so you can get up and running and start using the iPad as it is meant to be used. I hope you enjoyed that, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers!